right on, wasn't it?
It was perfect.
Yes, sir. Boys, this is Johnson Bottom. This is one of the wildest places around. A lot of woods and water.
I asked him if he'd consider coming over, and he said he'd be happy to.
Take pictures of Bigfoot. Look, baby.
Yeah.
Sure, your underwear looks shiny. That thing is neat. Don't slap me in the eye.
It's gone.
It's gone.
It's
Okay, can I have your attention just a minute, please? There's somebody that's not here this year, that was here last year, that I dedicated this year's event to. And that's a good friend of this community, Donnie Miller. And yes, I want just a real brief moment of silence and remembrance of Donnie, okay? Thank you, Donnie, for what you did for this community. Matt is going to say just a word or two and say our blessing. After the blessing, Jeannie, we're just going to go through. Absolutely. Absolutely no order to it. So just...
And the drinks are on the outside.
The drinks are on the outside, and if you don't have a koozie, I'll get you one before you drink this cold. Hot. Okay, Matt.
Larry asked me just to say a couple of words, and immediately my mind was drawn to Hebrews chapter 12. The first two verses says, "Therefore we also, since we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and sin which so easily ensnares us or besets us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God." The writer of Hebrews puts this in the context of a runner. And I always think back to the fact that you take the fastest person that you can think of, and you wrap their arms and their legs up with chains or with ropes and bind them. How fast are they? They're not, are they? But if that entails, or if that mimics the sins which so easily besets us or ensnares us, when we let those things go, we can run the race that's set before us again. And I think that's what the writer of Hebrews is talking about. Even the troubled race that we feel like we have here on this earth. The tail end of verse 2 there says, "For the joy that was set before him," Jesus, "endured the cross." I don't know that we've had that kind of trouble. I have not had that kind of trouble. I probably thought it was close, but I don't think any of us have been that far yet. But at the end of the day, in the end of that verse, it says, "And he sat down at the right hand of the throne of God." And I hope that's what we're all looking to do one day, is to sit down with God. Would you pray with me? Father, as we gather here as community and friends and families and children of yours, Father, I pray that you'd bless our time together this evening. Pray that you'd bless the food that's been prepared, the fellowship that'll be had. Lord, I pray for safety for each person here, for those that'll stay an extended period, and those that'll travel back to their homes and other places a little early. God, be with us as we fellowship here tonight in honor of our friend, Donnie Miller. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Tell you one thing, y'all got a hot job, I know that. What do you think? Look like we're gonna have fun?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna have some kind of presentation.
Candle. 723. Red ticket, 723. Seven, 5.
They threw their tickets away.
743.
743.
The last three numbers.
Yeah, last
Coach just making sure you know how to play ball.
in the first three.
746.
No. I've been looking at the first three.
748. 710.
710. Before Drew gets ready, I'm going to let Kevin say something about his accessories for tonight. Kenneth Reel. Everybody knows Kenneth. I brought the GPS and if we get lost, we'll be able to find our way back, and so just don't get outside the yard, it'll be good. And I've got this is a self-proclaimed heat detecting device. You push the button and it tells you what the temperature is, and it doesn't give the exact image of it, but we can pretend it does, okay? And so I've got my boots. I went to Scrubs and got my boots to keep the snakes away. And so if y'all need any snake boots, Scrubs sell them. They're not paying for the advertising. The Wampus deal was started. Les Walters came up with that name probably 30 years ago. My dad was had a farm a couple of miles up the road, and Daddy would go by and look out across his pasture, and that was before we had very many deer in the area. And so Daddy saw this animal go running across the pasture. And so he saw Les a few days later in town. He told Les there was some kind of animal down there. And so that's where the Wampus Cat name came from. And so that's what this is a spinoff was from that for 30 years ago, I guess.
It's a way spinning off too.
It was, yeah, probably 30 years.
It was 80,
More than
81. Yeah, and then we had, DD had calves.
Les, myself, Brother Jeff Fleming, Matt, Rodney, the sheriff, Whitey Long, Ray Cooper. There was somebody else. Tim Wright. Sheriff then ran up on some kids down at the way here, indulging a little bit, and he made them get rid of their indulgence. And as the sheriff's team was starting to leave, one of the kids said, "Sheriff, can I ask you a question?" He said, "Sure." "What are y'all doing out here?" Sheriff wouldn't answer. On in at great expense. Drew, where are you?
He just went inside.
It's that way at home too. You can't keep up with him.
Is he?
Yes.
I've run out of stories. You got a story?
Yeah, that wasn't, you said brother.
Wampus Cats and Bigfoot, I'm telling you right now, you're looking in the wrong place, because I promise you, we've got evidence of him right here at this house right here. I promise you, because I found it yesterday coming out here and cleaning up around and everything. And Larry, it was right inside the camp house, right here he is. Now, I don't know who wears that right there, but that's a Bigfoot. Right there's a Bigfoot, y'all. I don't believe in evolution, but let me tell you, if I did, this guy right here is a knuckle dragger about second generation upright. That's a big old boy right there. Bigfoot, yeah, I'll tell you what. Let me tell y'all real quick how to handle a Bigfoot, okay? Well, first of all, if I see a Bigfoot, everybody, the first thing I'm going to do is put him on my 2-in-1 plan, Jim. I'm going to put him on the 2-in-1 plan with a 40 caliber Model 23C Glock. That's 2 in the chest and 1 in the head. That, folks, right there is what we call a Yeti cooler. Yeah. Air cooling. You know, a gaping chest wound just takes a fight right out of a Bigfoot. Now, if that don't work right there, then the next thing you got to think about, are you alone or were you with somebody? If I'm with Les, I ain't got to outrun Bigfoot, I got to outrun Les. Now let's just say that I'm by myself. And I don't have my Glock. Or it's jammed, Lord forbid, and we know that don't happen. No. But let's just say that it did. Well, the next thing I want to do is I want to go for my Zulu War Club, my Sahila, my African War Club right here to take him out with, everybody. I want to take him out with. This right here was handed down to me by Chief Amanzam Todi. And that is the Zulu word for Hozalapa Madota Mida Chenowena Klainiso Izindaba. Imboguipi Yasa Isan Lawana Yoko Zula Yadonza by my Roman Gisi. Yonkan Lelo Ugo Yalo de Ao Madota. Oh Banabenga Tinta Mabu Besu, Nancy Kakalap Yoko Tatsiko Kakalapa. Which means there ain't no Sasquatches over here. And I never saw none over there. But if I did, I'm going to tell y'all something. If there's a Sasquatch, and I ain't saying there is, I ain't saying there ain't, but he got off the boat. That's the big boat. 450 feet long, 75 foot wide, and 45 feet high, 3 million cubic feet of volume, 100,000 foot of deck space. There was room enough for him. There was dinosaurs on there too. So whatever we have now got off the boat way back yonder in Noah's time. So There's some strange animals in the world, though. Some strange, strange things. Now, folks, back by popular demand is the T-39 Trogon call. The Trogon call. It's a mating call. Shh, listen real quietly. Now, guys, I need y'all to pay attention in particular. Okay, you hear that? Now, listen. Now, what you want to do after that is stomp and huff and stammer around and make a lot of noise, guys, because you want him to know that you're a boy. Now, if that don't work, this is just as sure. Where's Rodney at? Rodney, where you at? Snake Man, there you are. Right there, Rodney. If that don't work, Rodney, you got to put that old tie-pay lock on him because he's done come in close and he's done gathered you all up and he's done caught you. Rodney, you got to slip around behind him there and you got to ease around there and put that old wrestling tie-pay lock on him and slide your finger around up his backside there and crook it. And you got him. You got him. You got him in, Rodney. He can't get away. But now, the thing about it is, what you going to do with him? Okay, well, folks, I got to go to the old box right here. Left out there by that barn from the 1974 Johnson Bottom Bigfoot Wars. And this is Wild Bill Parsons' box. He didn't hand it down to me. I just got it. There wasn't nothing left of him. Matter of fact, he had used all the stuff out of it, just about it, fighting those wars against the Bigfoot. And the only thing left was the box and an old blood-soaked boot that was laying out there, ripped and torn. That's the only. He was a small fella, but he was 5'2", just like a wildcat. He was a wildcat, and he was raised by them Bigfoots. Hated their guts and livers. He did. He was raised by them. Found when he was just a baby. And his mama found him, and she raised him. Now, she was all right. You know, I used to have a picture of her in the camp house back there myself. She wasn't that bad. But them old stepbrothers of his always digging around in his ears and messing with him and stuff, and he hated their every hair on their chin. Now, this is the only thing I got of Wild Bill left right here. But inside, I like to keep some very special things. If the tie-pay lock don't work, if your 40 caliber Glock, Lord forbid, has jammed, if you ain't got anything else, if you can't outrun Les Walters, there's a lot to be said for just a big old rock. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you don't doubt a big old rock. 1 Samuel, the 17th chapter, David did a wonderful thing with that. He took down the original Bigfoot, 9 foot, 8 inches tall, sunk it in his forehead, and then run up and cut his head off. Yeah, don't underestimate a big old heavy rock, y'all. That's one thing. The next thing that I always like to remember is the multi-purpose T-74 ginseng digger / dash Bigfoot eye gouger. This right here will work, y'all. It'll work for you. It'll never fail you. Right there. Don't forget that. Now, if that don't work, folks, and your camp house or wherever you're at, if you have the technology, the old 8-track player, then what you want to do is run up in there and put on an 8-track cassette deck player of Ronnie Millsap's greatest hits. They hate that. They hate that. Oh, boy, that'll run them off in the hordes. Let me tell you. Now, folks, the best thing I can do to tell y'all about that right there is to read the bones for you. But now, we was out here scouting around a little bit, and we found, you know, some, me and Larry and the boys went up on the hill, and I scouted around a little bit, and we found some scat up there. You know, we found some beaver scat. Well, all them Bigfoots and Sasquatches and Chupacabras, all them panthers, they like beaver. That's you want to use beaver for bait. Well, this is just laying around by the creek right here, you know, and they love beaver. And if you want to get it out in the air real good, too, you just pop 1 or 2 in your mouth and chew it up and let them smell that. See? Yeah. And muskrats. They like muskrats too. We got muskrats around here. They love to eat them. And I looked around out there and I sure enough did I found and I gathered up in this bag. Oh, my wife would be so proud. Sasquatch scat. Look at that right there. That's it right there, y'all. Denise, you seen this? Oh, my goodness. Wait a minute. It don't smell too good either, y'all. Just a minute. Here, hold that. Just a minute, y'all. I got a little problem right here. So I know they out here. Ain't no doubt in my military mind they out here. And the last thing I want to do is read the bones from y'all. Just to see if everybody's going to be okay tonight. Because over there in South Africa, the Zulu can tell a lot of things when they get those old sangomas and those inyangas around, those witch doctors and witch lady doctors. They read the bones for folks. Here, hold that. Oh my, what we got in store? I don't know. We almost done though. I see some things here. Nothing real clear about the Bigfoot at all. Nothing real clear, but this boy right here. Look. Right in there. I believe this belongs to you.
That's what you get my quarter at.
I told you. The bones know. Ask the bones. Let's see what else we got. Okay. Let's see. Where's Larry?
Right here.
Larry, they got a powder for that little, that problem you got. They got something for that out there now. Okay. And the only other thing I can see right here, y'all, is just an ominous warning for those of you that's going to stay out here tonight to be very, very careful and watch out for those pit vipers. They're the ones with the cat eyes up and down, them old snakes up and down. You know, the Zulu believe that was the souls of kings that had passed on before. So, y'all watch out for them kings out there in the woods tonight, down in these bottoms and stuff like that. Other than that, I can tell y'all, a lot of y'all know me, you know, I drank snake venom, eat poison oak. I've dodged rocks from baboons. I've fought off a wild hog with a hickory stick twice. I have stepped out on the back of a hippopotamus. I have lured up a zebra with a piece of chocolate and grabbed him by the hair of the mane and jumped on him for a short ride. What you call critters, I call food. But now I am currently taming a lady from Winston County, right yonder. And I've got proof that it's all working and all's good because I've almost taught her the language. So, Miss Sherry Lee, I brought her out tonight to be with you folks right here in civilization. Hope y'all have a good time. Have a good time tonight. Thank all your sponsors. Larry, thank you and your wife, Jenny, for the work y'all done. As far as wildcats and chupacabras and all that, y'all, I've seen two. Okay, I saw one night in the Tennessee Valley, a black panther. And I saw another black one on the Mississippi River in about a 1,000-acre green plot. Other than that, I'm listening to y'all. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Drew. Paul? Put that here if you would, please. Shannon Lawler works at First National Bank in Haleville. Shannon's a Bigfoot enthusiast and a Bigfoot extraordinary. Shannon said, "Hey, I know a guy you need to meet." And I said, "Okay." And I got his phone number. I called Paul and I said, "We're having a Wampus Cat hunt would you come? And I had no idea. And he said, sure, be glad to. And come to find out, Paul has been on Finding Bigfoot in 2014. And that's on the Animal Planet. And Paul, can you give part of your presentation right here? And then we'll huh? Yeah. Okay. Paul is from Coleman, Alabama. I don't know how to introduce more about him other than just letting him introduce himself to you. Paul, thank you for coming.
I'm originally from Russellville. I lived in Russellville all my life. Graduated in 1985 from Russellville High School. I pastored and ministered to youth and drug addicts and alcoholics for about 10, 12 years. Worked with foster kids. I was a court-appointed special advocate with, in Colbert County. I was up to about 2 years ago. I moved to Coleman, and I live in Coleman now. Coleman's kind of the central location for between my two sons who live in Russellville, my daughter who lives in Birmingham. So that's why I live in Coleman. And I work for Dick's Sporting Goods, by the way. So if you come into Dick's, just ask if Bigfoot Paul's there, and I'll give you a discount. But I really enjoyed the presentation there, and let me just go ahead and real quick give you some real advice. Don't ever attempt to shoot a Bigfoot. Don't ever attempt to gouge out its eyes. Don't ever attempt to get near it, because the last thing it wants to do is mess with you. I started researching Bigfoot in 2008. I'm a deer hunter. I've been hunting deer, and I've shot and killed just about everything, crawls, walks, flies, you name it, I've shot it and eat it. And when I was growing up as a boy, we raised beagles. We hunted deer with dogs in Franklin County for years. And I had one of the founding members of a hunting club there in Franklin County, and we had about 3,000 acres. And like I said, I thought I knew everything there was to know about the woods. I mean, I grew up in the woods, playing in the woods. Like I said, I've killed and shot everything. And then all of a sudden, one day in January of 2008, my whole world changed. And I was sitting on a power line on a 5-gallon bucket, which I love. I'm a long-range shooter. I love to shoot 250, 350 yards. My record kill is 437 yards, 9-point. I weigh 215 pounds. I got him mounted on the wall. And I'm sitting on this 5-gallon bucket with a pair of shooting sticks, watching this power line. It's about 250 yards long. And I'm waiting. It's right there on Lake Elliott. They call it City Lake in Russellville. It's where we get our drinking water from. And off to my right is a slough that people would go down and target shoot. And that afternoon, sure enough, some guys come down there and start target shooting. And they're shooting 22s, and every once in a while, one of them would go, woo! And I was like, man, it's 4:30, and they've ruined it. Nothing's going to come out. I might as well just go on home. And then about that time to my left, which it was 600 acres gated, and there was an 18-year-old pine plantation to my left that had just been thinned. So I'm sitting there with my rifle, and which is an M77 Ruger with a Simmons ATEX scope, 44 millimeter with 14 power side focus. So for me, 100 yards, I could drive a nail with my rifle. And all of a sudden to my left, I hear, woo! And I just look to my left, and I see what looks like someone walking through the pines just casually, and I'm thinking, man, this guy has come in here, has no idea I'm sitting here on this 5-gallon bucket with a high-powered rifle. He's only 100 yards away. So I stand up off my bucket and I go, hey! Well, when I did that, he squats down next to a pine tree and he's holding on to it like it's right here. And I'm thinking, nah, you ain't getting away. So I pulled my scope up and looked through my scope, and the first thing that popped into my mind was, that's some dude in one of those ghillie suits, and he's in here poaching. I'm fixing to find out who that is. Well, I take a few more steps forward, and I pull up, and I look at him again. Like I said, he's 100 yards away. I can drive I can center a quarter every shot, full clip. I adjust the side focus, and when I adjust the side focus, that's when I realize that on the arm, the part that's holding on to the tree, I can see it in the wind. That's not the ghillie suit. Well, then I'm looking at his face, and I'm thinking, what is that? So I take a few more steps. Third time I pull up, I'm trying to make up my mind whether I want to shoot this thing or not. I could have killed it, could have put a bullet between its eyes. Then that's when I look at its hand. And I realized an 18-year-old pine is about 12 inches in diameter. And I realized that this guy's hand is almost circumferenced around that pine tree. His thumb looks like a sausage. Well, I'm just kind of, I don't know what to do. And then he just kind of backs up into the foliage and disappears. So I get in my vehicle and I drive to the gate because I'm still in my mind thinking that there's somebody else in there. When I get up to the gate and washerboard, I'm the only one in there. I waited for an hour. Nobody came out. Well, I'm mad. I go back and I'm ranting, about there's people poaching on our land, blah, blah, blah. Well, 2 weeks later, I go back to the same spot. And the reason why was because as the sun would set, I could still see the horizon at the furthest point of where a tower was. And that was a 250-yard shot. Money in the bag. Sitting there on my 5-gallon bucket, my Bronco's 10 feet behind me. But, I did that all the time. I killed 12 bucks one year sitting by my vehicle. I'm sitting there with my rifle, and all of a sudden I look up and I see something big and black come up to the edge of the pines. Well, I'm thinking, what is that? Look at it through the scope. It's about 5 o'clock. And I like that spot because even if it's dark or starts to get dark, I can still see the silhouette of a deer, and it's an easy kill. Well, this time I brought my camera with me, and I've got it in there, the very one I used. And all of a sudden it stands up. I'm like, it's a bear! I'm going to shoot me a bear! But it walks across the power line to the tower, goes back down on all fours. Oh, it's a bear. I'm going to kill me a bear. I'm sitting there, I'm ready. I got my hand down on my side. I'm relaxed. I'm thinking, he's fixing to walk out on that tower. When he does, he's dead. But then I thought, oh, wait a minute, I need to turn my camera on. Well, about that time, he gets to the other side of the tower and he stands back up. I reach over and turn my camera on. Well, if you know anything about a Sony high 8mm camera, when they come on, it makes a whooey noise. It does the whooey, and when it does, he does this. He heard it. He's 250 yards away. I look through the scope, it's that dude in the ghillie suit. And for whatever reason, folks, I can't tell you, I dropped my gun, got in my Bronco, and here I go tearing up the power line. I'm fixing to whoop somebody's tail. I get up there, and he'd done bailed off in through the roughest stuff of briars you ever seen towards the lake. And I get up there, and as I do, my headlights pan across the grass, which we had it planted with a green field. I can show you the place today. And that's when I seen the tracks in the dew. Then I realized that the top of his head was at the bottom rail of that tower, which is about 8 foot off the ground. So I go home, I don't say nothing to nobody, and I just Google Alabama Bigfoot. Well, for 2 years, I didn't say a word to anybody because I knew if I did, they'd make fun of me or, really, Bigfoot? Come on, there's no such thing as Bigfoot. So for 2 years, I spent all my time I could reading every book I could get my hands on. There was one book that I read that opened up the door for me, and it was written by Robert W. Morgan, and it's called The Bigfoot Field Observer's Guide. I just met Mr. Morgan about 2 to 3 weeks ago, and I actually sat down with him, and we transferred data back and forth to each other, and it was almost like meeting with my mentor. But I took the principles of his book and I put them to use. And I started researching sightings. I looked at every database that I could find. I looked at the BFRO database. I looked at the GCBRO database. I even found a site called Lawn Flowers Jerky that you could buy artificial flowers, beef jerky, and Bigfoot. And next thing I know, I'm finding all kinds of sightings in the state of Alabama. But then I started kind of really getting trying to central locate where these sightings, where were the most occurring. And then I started looking at Bankhead National Forest. Well, I got a picture in there I'll show you of Bankhead National Forest. And there's blue dots on the map. And every blue dot is where a sighting has occurred. It creates a perfect pattern all the way across at an angle, all the way across Bankhead National Forest. So then I start doing research on history. And then I find out that in 1924, there's a story in Winston County, Alabama, called the Downy Booger. That story was about two cousins that were coming back one night on a horse from a church gathering and had an encounter with something big and hairy and chased after them. In fact, they got together a posse and hunted it down. You can go up to the Rabbit Town trading post today, and he's got the book, the Winston County Register, and you can actually look in that book and read the story for yourself. So when I read that story, then I started looking at more, places. And what I did was every spot there was an encounter, I drew a circle, a 1 mile radius. And wherever that 1 mile radius, the two circles would meet, that's where I'd go look. Well, it didn't take long before I found my first track. And what I found was where something had jumped over an 8-foot mud hole. And it landed on the other side just on the ball of its foot, but you could see every toe. Well, then I started finding these odd-looking tree things. They were X's, and they were, horizontal logs that were 20 foot long. And next thing I know, I'm kind of doing research on that, trying to figure out what does that mean. And then I find out Native Americans, use trees to mark trails, and I researched the Trail of Tears. I got so deep to it that I traveled to Wyoming and followed the Trail of Tears to see what it was really all about. And when I found out what it was really about, I was really kind of upset. And but what I did when I found my first track, and then I found actual markers. And the markers aren't for me and you, they're for them. They're for each other. And they tell you a story. The markers will actually tell you, it's like a gang sign. And it will tell you who lives there and how big they are and how many there are. And so I go into these areas, and I'll never forget my first encounter. The first time I had an encounter, I'd been going in for 2 months straight to this one particular area, because I knew there was something there. I had smelled it, I had heard it, but I'd never seen it. And I've got audio captures like you wouldn't believe. You were talking about Shannon Lawler. Shannon actually found me on Facebook and got a hold of me and met me out at one of my research areas. And one night while him and his two sons were at the research area, I told his oldest boy, I said, come on, me and you going to go walking down the road about 10 o'clock at night. And meantime, his daddy and his youngest brother stayed there at the fire. And they drove a Jeep. They had a little Jeep, and they drove it in that night. And they were big into tweeting. I don't tweet. I don't know what that is. But they were big into tweeting, so they were always tweeting. Well, here me and the oldest son, we're walking down the road. We walk in about 2 miles. We're trying to have encounters. And I'll never forget me and him walking. I got my night vision camera, and we're walking along this road, with just a full moon. And you hear all of a sudden this rustling in the brush. And he's like, oh my gosh, what was that? Calm down, just be calm. Don't do anything rash. Just, we don't know what it is. I already knew what it was. Shh, oh my God, what is it? I don't know, but it's right over here. And so we start walking towards it. Well, that's when he realizes it's an armadillo, and he tries to kick it. And you don't try to kick an armadillo, because next thing you know, he's on his butt on the ground. So we're laughing, and we're headed back to the camp. Well, in the meantime, back at the camp, now this is a place where I've had multiple encounters and actually have one of my first face-to-face. Shannon is sitting on a log, and there's a fire in front of him. And his son has been tweeting. And his son's cell phone's dying, so he goes and he gets in the Jeep. You hear the door closed. What they didn't know is I had a recorder going the whole time in the camp. An audio recorder. Well, on that audio recorder, you hear the Jeep door close. And then you can actually still hear a little bit of the tick, 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 tick. You hear a car go by. Then all of a sudden you hear, pah. You hear the door open, close, and you hear his son go up to his daddy and go, "Did you just throw a rock?" He says, "What? A rock?" "Yeah, a rock just landed in front of the Jeep." I captured every bit of it on audio. They still have the rock today. And you can ask Shannon and he'll tell you that story, I'm sure. But I can't even begin. I've been doing this, like I said, since 2008. And the closest that I've been to one is 20 feet. I've seen 4, and they're very real. And, you know, I get asked questions, all kinds of questions. There's not a question that I've ever been answered that I don't have a logical, rational answer for. And people ask me, you know, all the time, "How do you know that's the way it is?" I said, "Well, I don't know that for fact, but I can tell you what I do know. I can take you in there and I can show you their footprint cast from here in the state of Alabama. I can show you history here in the state of Alabama. But even better yet than that, I can show you video footage of a Sasquatch paralleling me as I'm walking out of the woods. I can show you thermal video footage of a Sasquatch watching me while in Sylacauga, Alabama. I can show you pictures of a Sasquatch in a barn, and you can see his face. How much realer can I get other than just taking him and dumping him in front of your feet?" We're the kind of people in our culture where we say, "I have to see it to believe it." And what changed my whole look is, you know, I said I'm a pastor. I went to seminary. I studied the Bible extensively. And I said, you know, if these guys are real, I can find them in the Bible. They're there. We just don't know them as Bigfoot. We know them as Goliath. He had 5 brothers. So that meant there was a breeding population. Did you know that King David got escorted with the Ark of the Covenant by an army of giants? Did you know that the King Anak was a giant? There's pictures of him depicted on pictographs where he's sitting in a throne, and his men, his warriors, are standing in front of him, and they come to his knees. Is it very possible for someone to be covered with hair completely over their body? There's a genetic anomaly called hypertrichosis. You ever seen the wolf boys in the circus? Well, that's a genetic anomaly that occurs in humans. They took a sample from a boy in South America, and they were able to genetically match it to a sample in Asia. So people from Asia, and if you didn't know, you could walk from Jerusalem to Asia. You could walk from Africa to Asia. You could go from Africa to Russia. You could walk from Africa to here at one time. See how that changed. Is it possible? You ever met Shaquille O'Neal? I have. Shaquille O'Neal is 7 foot tall, weighs over 400 pounds. His hand will engulf your entire face. He wears a size 24 shoe. That is a big man. When I stood next to him, I was kind of like, you know, oh my gosh. I felt like and remember when the Israelites went over into the, Jordan, crossed the Jordan, and they came back and reported, and they said, the land's there, but there's a problem. There's people over there, and we're like grasshoppers to them. So is it possible that there is a race of giants still alive to this very day? You bet you, because I'm like this man right here. They was on the boat, and they got off that boat. And God told all of his creation to do one thing. Go forth, be fruitful, and multiply. He didn't say go forth and get extinct. How do they avoid us? It's not really that hard. We're not as smart as we think we are. We've only been in this country 600 years. There were people that were here thousands of years. If you go to the Dismal's Canyon, which I used to run that and manage it one time, you will find archaeological evidence of civilizations dating back 10,000 years. They were called the Paleo Indians. So, do we really know everything we think we know? No, we don't. How do they avoid us? It's really not that hard. I mean, really, we're going to go out tonight, tromping in the woods, smelling like bug spray, with flashlights, and we're all going to be talking. How hard do you think it'd be for something to avoid us? It's really quite easy. You know, we deer hunt a lot. This is a hunting club, and I would wear camouflage. And what would be the thing? What are you told to do when you go deer hunting? If you take your kids with you to go deer hunting, what do you tell them? Be still. Shh, be quiet. That's all they do. They just sit still, and we walk right past them. How many of you hunters have possibly walked past the state record buck and never knew it? So how is it that something so large, so big, can go undetected? I don't know if I'd really say that they're undetected, considering there's a history that goes back and describes it and talks about it. Every Native American tribe, every single one, not some of them, not part, all of them talk about these things. And they never refer to them as an animal. It's always as a people or a person. Stick man, woodsman, hairy man, boss of the mountain, Bukwas. I mean, they had names for them, Oma. And some of the names, were like big, hairy, smelly, human that could talk. I mean, the Iroquois Indians called them stone giants. And if you want to know about the Iroquois, well, just go to Ohio, and you'll find a place in Ohio where the mound builders used to live until the Iroquois came in. And the Iroquois came in and just pretty much eradicated the whole tribe of mound builders. And so they called them stone giants because when they came up, confronted them, they were covered in mud to fight the flies. And when the mud would dry, it looked like stone on them. Can I look back and see evidence in the history books of things that I don't understand, things I can't comprehend? You bet you. So what is the purpose of me in my research? I don't have to convince anyone that they're real. I know they're real. People ask me, well, how you want to find out? Get off your couch and get in the woods, because that's where they are. They're not on the TV. Finding Bigfoot is fun. It's a TV show. It's entertainment. But they called me up because they saw my thermal footage on YouTube channel that I used to have. And that thermal footage come from Sylacauga, Alabama. And you see, I'm a researcher for the Mid-America Bigfoot Research Center, based out of Stillwell, Oklahoma. And I also worked with another research organization that provided me with thermal cameras, video cameras. They come off of a BMW. And you could take this camera and put it on and videotape and see in the dark, because it would show the heat signatures. So I go to this 9,000 acre hunting club where they had been seeing, stuff for years, but had nothing, no pictures, no nothing. And I go one night and I'm sitting there and I got all my gear, which I'm a gear guru. And there's about 3 other researchers and we're all sitting around the fire playing a guitar, just kind of hanging out. And they said, well, hey, let's go down to the lake. It's about a mile down the road. Let's go walking down there and look around, beat on some trees and make some hollers. So I said, sure, why not? But let me just turn on the thermal camera so it can be watching the camp while we're gone. So I take the camera and get it out, and I'm putting it together on my truck, and I turn it on. I look down at the monitor, and I pan across the green field, past the vehicles and the tents, and then the guys that are getting their flashlights out of a vehicle, and then I just kind of do this to the woods. When I did, I looked down at the monitor and went, who's that? So then I said, where's everybody at? And you see me pan over like this, and they go, we're over here. And I go immediately back to the woods. He's not standing behind that tree anymore. He's squatted down and he's crawling off to the side. Well, I didn't say anything to anybody. I kept my mouth shut. Because a lot of times, if you say something, they're going to want to go tromping in after it. And let me just say this. I've been 20 foot of one. Trust me, you don't want to run in after it. They don't want us to mess with them. They would rather be left alone. But we're intruding in their home. We're the outsiders, not them. We did the preliminary measurements. We located the very exact spot the individual was standing. And of course, Finding Bigfoot crew comes out, and they got about 12 other people that come with them because they got somebody that does sound, lights, cameras, batteries, directors, and then they had this girl that all she did was the catering of the food. We had Greek food. We're at 9,000 Acre Hunting Club, eat Greek food. I mean, catered. And Bobo is 6'3", 311 pounds. He's from California, and so everything he says ends with dude. And Cliff Brockman is like the Energizer Bunny. Bigfoots are, they're in the woods, and Bigfoots really do this, and Bigfoots like to do it. That's Cliff. Moneymaker is, I know everything there is about Bigfoot. I've been hunting for 25 years, but I've never seen one. And then you got Renee. Renee is the skeptic. Not really. Her daddy was a Bigfooter, and she's a believer, but her role on the show is as skeptic. We did the recreation, and they couldn't debunk it. Bobo's standing in the same exact spot, got his hand up like this right here. Cliff Brockman goes, "Bobo, put your hand up." "I'm already on my tiptoes, dude." It was still 1.5 feet higher than his highest reach. It was standing behind an 8-inch poplar. Now, do you think that it knew I could see it, considering it was standing behind we did the measurements. It was 8 foot tall by 4 foot wide, basically the size of a sheet of plywood, standing 50 feet away behind an 8-inch poplar. He didn't know I had a camera. He didn't know I was going to turn it on. But when I said, "Where's everybody at?" he heard what I said, and he moved. That told me that they understand what we say. So then I started looking into the Native American culture even more. And then the next thing I know, I capture language. I capture words. That's a Choctaw, Chickasaw, a dialect. And when I first heard the word, I was saying it wrong. And I would go out to areas and say the word, because I'd heard it in the woods. I had to be a real word. "Oshima! Oshima!" I actually had one respond to it. Came up, crawling towards me. I could see him. Had a flashlight on his face. I'm turning around trying to run away because I'm scared. And he goes, "Ma?" I didn't know what he was saying. And then I happened to talk to, some people that did know, native tongue. Told him the words, and he said, "Oh, no. You're saying it wrong." I said, "All right, well, how do you say it?" "It's Oshika." "Oshika?" He said, "Yeah." "What does it mean?" "It means come here or go see." And then all of a sudden a switch went off. Because how I heard that word was this place where I'd found my first track, found the signs. I would go up there at night and sit. Every night. I'd go up there and sit from midnight to about 2 in the morning, trying to capture any kind of audio, trying to capture anything I could. And one night I pulled up there, and when I pulled up there to get out of my vehicle, I got out, and I had this little routine that I would do, which, is just what I would do. They knew it was me. They could hear my vehicle. They knew it was me. And I got up there that night, did my little routine, got out my parabolic microphone, put the headphones on, and started scanning. Well, when I started scanning, I could hear this noise. And it was like you ever heard those kids with their boombox in their cars? Boom, 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 boom. That's what I heard. Then I heard woo, 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 boom, 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 woo, 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 boom, 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 boom. Now what in the world is that? And then that's when I heard Oshika. Oshika. What I found in this area is a small group. It's a large male and a female. They have an adolescent and a little one. And the little one is about the size of a 4-year-old. And best I can determine, it's a female. because of her voice. Because she was the one going, "What you got? What you got?" They were arguing. The mom and dad were arguing because I had come up. And they were arguing. And the little one was going, "Go see, go see." Changed my whole perspective on the way I conduct my research. I don't go in and beat on trees. I don't go in and do, "Woo!" And the reason why is because if this is the most elusive creature in the world, if they really don't want, then why in the world would they give up their position just because I beat on the side of a tree? Why in the world would they give up their position because I holler? Is it that one of them is sitting there, twiddling his thumbs, cracking a few twigs, and all of a sudden he hears, "Woo! Oh, that must be Bob." No, they already know who's there and who doesn't belong there. They're not going to respond to any kind of whoops and hollers you do. And what is the wood knox? Well, I found out. I've been following these two adults, the big guy and his little running buddy, like Ren and Stimpy is, and whenever I come into their area, they would do one sharp knock. Pow. Whenever I came out, pow. They're letting the others know someone's coming. That's all it is. It's a warning. Someone's coming. If you do it more than once, 3 times or more, it means hunker down, don't move. So you can get out there and beat on trees all night long, all you want to do, and you won't see nothing or have anything happen because you're basically sounding the warning already. This is an intelligence. Do I know exactly what they are? No. No one does, I don't think. Possibly. Does the government know about them? I believe they do. Because if you go to the state of Washington, they have a map and it shows all the indigenous wildlife of the state of Washington, and guess what one of them is? Sasquatch. When I found his track, he had actually went in behind these people's house, tore open a rabbit pen, and stole their rabbit. And so, and of course, there's another print of his foot. And you can see again that wide ball and heel. This track shows how the toes flexed down into as it pushed off, from the ground. And then, of course, you can see the depth of that footstep. Whatever it was very heavy. I stepped in the same substrate, and you barely could tell where I had stepped. That horsefly, he is tenacious. They must. And then,
Wait a minute, I'm gonna get him. If you'll hang still, I'll kill him. There's 2 of them.
Let me get him.
Again, there he is. I'll let you stop him.
this,
There you go.
Throw him down the floor. Throw him down the floor. I caught one.
All right, good
this
boy.
track
Kill him.
actually came from down within Bankhead National Forest. As you can see, it's a small one. And again, you look at and you see that there's no arch. You see, we are born without an arch, and we're develop it as we grow older because we wear shoes. But if you don't wear shoes, your feet basically flatten out. Of course, you can see the real nice big toe. But what this one had done is it had come down the side of an embankment, and in 3 leaps, once off the embankment, once in the sandbar in the middle of the creek, and then the other on the other side, like a deer, just pop, 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 and it was gone across the creek. But as you can see, I have all kinds of gadgets and gizmos. One of my favorites is this little piece of equipment. This is called a FLIR. This is a forward-looking infrared camera. And what I can do with this is I can I can look around in the dark and see in the dark. Would you stand over there? Because what this does is it picks up the heat signature. So you can see the boy standing there. If we were in total darkness, you'd be able to see. Now, what's really cool about this device, now move out of the way. I can still see his footprints on the ground. So I can actually use this device to look at footprints on the ground. I carry it with me basically because sometimes I might hear something in the woods and it's pretty close, and so I want to see what I'm looking at, you know, what's there. I can see it with this. You know what I did discover with a FLIR? I found out that mice live in trees. When you're in the woods, the mice at night come down out of the trees. I didn't know what it was. I saw these little white things coming down beside the trees. I thought, what the world is that? Then they jumped on the ground and started running around. I realized it's mice. They live in the trees. That's why owls are in the trees, because there's mice in the trees. So you learn stuff when you do what I do. I have also, every deer hunter can have one of these called Game Finder. And what this does is it picks up heat signatures. And it has little bars that whenever something warm, once it calibrates and gets set, I can take this, and whenever something with a heat signature passes in front of it, it goes off. So I've actually used this walking through the woods without a flashlight because it will read trees, because trees put off the heat signature. It has a range of about 500 yards. I actually found an escaped county jail guy with this. He was hiding in a little patch of woods until I came along, and then I found him. I also have, some very affordable night optics. This is called a Bushnell digital night vision. And what it has is it has a little LCD screen on the inside. And then when I turn this on, it shoots a beam of infrared light, like a spotlight. And I can look around trees. And the only thing I've been kind of hesitant about is I don't know what I'd do if I happened to look beside a tree and seen a face looking at me. That would probably be a little unnerving. Like I said, I've been 20 foot of one, and I was trying not to throw up because I was that scared. The parabolic mics, these, if you want to really enhance, your research, get you one of these. You can buy them from Toys R Us for about 25 bucks. They come with a set of headphones. You'd be amazed at what they can pick up. Now I've got another parabolic dish that's 36 inches across. I can hear a tick fart from 100 yards away. That one, you turn it on, you hear stuff crawling in the leaves. I mean, bugs and everything. I'm like, man. But this is real good. I got an audio recorder attached to it. I can plug in my headphones and actually record while I pan from side to side. And you use it kind of like a Geiger counter. You can find the sound source and then just go back and forth, and then you can pinpoint where it is. I used to have foster kids. I'd make them go out and hide in the field, and then I'd sit there and try to find them. And so, just some of the little gadgets that I use. I collect a lot of audio. I have, bionic ears that I put on, so I can sit there and listen. It's amazing sometimes when you actually go out in the woods and you sit still, and you be quiet, and then you just listen. It's amazing what you hear. And I've had a lot of experiences and a lot of encounters, and it never gets boring. If anything, it just kind of adds to it. And what I'm going to share with you is just a few things that I've got. Shooting audio. This is the projector. Let's see if I can get that projector to come on.
Will you need the lights out or the air conditioner off or any of that before you do some of this?
See if this plays. What it's saying is, and what had happened was we placed the recorder in a limestone quarry, and it found the recorder, and so it went whoa, chop, and that's kind of like realized that it found it. Here's a recording from this from Bankhead National Forest. I just put out the recorder, walking back to my vehicle, and I didn't hear that because it's like 50 yards away. So then I get back to my vehicle and I get the FLIR and I put it out and I turn it on. And when I turn the FLIR on, that's when I hear this next thing. I heard that and I thought, coyotes, great. It's always a good night to have coyotes. I love hearing coyotes. But then that's when he let me know he wasn't too happy with what I'd just done. That was 50 feet away from me, not the recorder. And so, you know, when I heard that, I knew right then that he was not very happy with what I was doing. The thing about a lot of my audio captures is that I've always got somebody usually with me. And so there's a lot of times that I'll have recordings and you'll hear somebody with me. Well, the good part about that is that's just kind of validation that something happened. Come on. Now this lady, she's been diagnosed with cancer, and when she was asked what would she like to do, she had 6 months to live, and they asked her what she'd like to do. She said, I want to go Bigfoot with Paul Olson. So they called me up, and I make a trip to Marathon Lake, Mississippi, where she lived. And this is a place that I have done research, I've had encounters, I've collected audio and everything. And I take her with me one night. And we're sitting in the back of my pickup truck, 2 miles back into the forest. And before I took her to there, she told me, she said, oh, by the way, she was 55, 56 years old. She said, I'm premenopausal, so you'll have to excuse my moods if I get, emotional or whatever. Okay, whatever. Well, we go out there, And she has to use the bathroom. So here she is. She has to use the bathroom in front of my place. She's just casual, you know, no big thing.
And you pay an hour?
You care?
That's for you.
Oh, no.
Use the bathroom.
You always want to close your eyes. I never did.
It's dark, no light. No light.
I feel like you're walking down that road, I couldn't see you, I can hear you. Yeah. That's what it is.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, we hear this, and she goes,
You hear that?
and then she says,
Sometimes it comes from this way,
that's not the cow.
like over here where we heard the other thing.
Never with the rest.
It was right down in the hollers below us.
What the fuck is... Oh,
Like,
that's my job.
that's not a cow.
Empowering.
Now, I decided to do Cliff Baraki and scream at him. And that was not a good choice. Because it began to come towards us. And the roars got more intense, louder as it was coming towards us. But she passed away, unfortunately. But she said one of the greatest things that she ever experienced was this night, where she actually got some vocalizations. And the thing about it, that once I went through and started reviewing the audio clip, a chain of events occurred that I didn't even realize I had captured. And what had happened was that she had went to the front of the vehicle, used the bathroom. The wind was blowing down that way, and he hollered at her, like, you know, hey. Well, when he hollered at her, I hollered at him, you know, with a whoop. Well, when I did that, that made him mad, because then he roared, roar. Well, in this transference back and forth between the two of us, in the background, you hear a female voice, and she goes, whoop. And so after reviewing the audio clip, I told Stephanie, I said, you know what happened that night? I said, you used the bathroom, and he thought it was his girlfriend. and he was trying to find out where she was. And evidently, when I hollered, he thought there was somebody else near his girlfriend. So that made him mad. So then she let him know, it ain't me. It's amazing at what I've captured on, audio. I've captured in Pell City, Alabama. Here's a clip of audio that came from Silicaga. This is at the lake. Two researchers down there with audio recording. You hear the buzz, you hear all this stuff. If you hear it again. Moi? I don't know what moi means, but it's a word. Trying to see if here's one from Bankhead National Forest. Birds that whistle that way. If I'm doing something wrong with it. In my, research, of course, like I said, I got started, in Bankhead, and I found, my first track, which you can't really see that well on the projector. But there you can kind of see it a little bit better, and you can see the toe marks. That was the ball of the foot. That's all that I was able to find was the ball of the foot. And then I started finding these strange markers. These sticks. I wasn't sure what they were, but I found that they all had something in common. One thing was that this is a dogwood tree. And it was always bowed in a certain direction, and it had so many uprights. Then it had a stick going this way, and the significance of this stick was that is a cedar. And that's in the middle of the hardwoods. There's no cedars, and it's a cedar. And that's the bottom. That's the top, the tip. I started finding these all over Bankhead. Finding stuff like this that, I really. Again, this is a dogwood tree. And there you see a vertical. But this log was horizontal. It was 16 foot long. And that log was perched precariously, just hanging there perfectly. You could have just about balanced, of course, some tracks you can tell, you can see, and some of them you can't. Of course, this is a picture of the state of Alabama and all the BFRO reports. And the states the counties that are different color or darker color is where more encounters occur. And you can see a pattern coming down from Georgia. It goes all the way across into Mississippi. And the key thing about a lot of these locations is that that's where a wildlife management area or preserve is. Of course, in Bankhead National Forest, that's a map of Bankhead. And wherever you see a little blue dot, that's where sightings have occurred. You see a pattern? Evidently, there's a lot to do with these water sources, but they've got it broke down to really kind of like zones. You got 33 that runs down through here, and this is Bankhead and Brushy. There's a group over there. Then you got 60 that cuts through the middle, and there's this end which has got a couple in it, and then this end has a small group in it. So they've got it actually situated where, in this line is obviously where there seems to be some interaction between them, and you're seeing it, the eyewitness accounts. Of course, that's me. Can't see much. That's me right there with the Finding Bigfoot guys. Which, like I said, that's a great show. It's all a lot of fun, but it doesn't really, have any. This is a tree in Bankhead. And again, dogwood tree, upright, single log. Now, what are the chances of me finding that once, but then finding it twice, then finding it a third time? My favorite one, again, this is another one, same thing. Dogwood tree, upright, 2 this time. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but me, I don't think that's really a coincidence. Trying to figure it out, what is the symbolism to it? I'm not sure I understand. I know I found this tree, this marker, and you can lay a compass on top of it, and it's perfect north-south, east-west. These are cedar poles. I couldn't even move them. They were wedged in there so tight. This is in Waterloo. It's not even in this county. It's in the north part. Sometimes you find trees precariously perched, logs perched up here on top of other trees. Just unusual. Sometimes they would, they would be like this. And you think, how did that get in a dogwood tree, this one? What is the significance of the dogwood tree? I really don't know. But I do know that I'm finding the same things. Here's a picture of a marker. But this is different. This is another tree. There's the root ball of the tree. That's in Waterloo. I'm not sure I understand a lot of times what the markers symbolize. Shoals Preserve. You ever heard of Shoals Preserve? They're distinct. They're not just haphazard. They all seem to be placed with a purpose. And sometimes I find, a teepee structure where it's multiples going up, marking something. I got asked, some of my favorites. This is in Waterloo. That's a 20-foot log, 15 feet up in the air, wedged in between this fork. And the only thing holding it up on this end is this little bitty sapling right here. That would have been a tree that would have failed. It would have just took the whole tree down as it fell. Interesting part is is that that's a pine log, and that's nothing but hardwoods. In the summertime, like right now, you can't see that log. But in the winter, the leaves fall off the trees, it sits on top of the hill, you can see it for a mile away. Some people ask me, where do they sleep? Good question. I think I found where one had slept. Or at least looking at the pictures made me think, that I took, looking at the structure. When I looked at how it was made, how it was formed, that a tree 15 feet up had been snapped in half to fall against another tree, and then other trees were took and bent underneath it to support this part of the tree. You can clearly see that trees have been manipulated, pulled up from different areas. That tree didn't fall and take all those other trees with it. Underneath it was a perfect perch. You could stand underneath it and not even touch the bottom of it. And where it met up against the broken tree, here's the poplar. That was the base. And where it met up against that, how do I know that it wasn't just natural, that it fell, that these weren't put together? Well, how many natural trees have you ever seen weave themselves around? It created a bough. It created a perch. It created a place to sleep off the ground in safety. Now, I don't know many people that do that. So once we took a more closer look at it, that's when we realized what we found. We found a place where one of it had actually slept. Took this picture because I wanted to show this. This is an oak tree. You see this limb? It was worn off. The bark was worn completely off right there. This is a pine log. The significance of that pine log is that it was rotten and it had woodpecker holes all in it. We figured out that what they were doing was that at night they would climb up that tree and sit on that spot and pick the woodpeckers out of the holes. Trees that were taken and wedged. I'm talking wedged in between two trees, and this tree didn't fall from anywhere. It was brought in and then wedged in that spot. Loggers, I've even showed that to loggers. You ever heard of trail trees? They're trees that have been manipulated to look a certain way because they mark trails. That is a trail tree, and that's the pointer. And what the pointer was pointing to was the fresh water source. So, when I look at the evidence that I've got, and then I pull up, the best. This was in Inlock Falls, 2 miles upstream. And you say, well, that looks just like an ordinary human's footprint. Pull your shoes off. Let's take a look and see who has a foot like that. The significant part about it is where do you see the water gathered up? Is it gathered up in the entire track? No, it's just gathered up in the heel and in the ball of the foot because the rock was right there. And when it stepped on the rock, that makes a cut. You see, they had what's called mid-tarsal flexion, not break, flexion. What that means is because we wore shoes and our feet, when we step on a log, we teeter-totter. When they step, it wraps. That's how they're able to traverse the terrain so freely and easily, because their feet aren't like ours. I've found tracks, you can definitely see the toes. A dollar bill is signed just for scale. And a track is You know, the size of the track is not determined by the weight of the individual. It's determined by the substrate, the impact. Because even a person with a small foot can leave a big print, depending on what the substrate is like. If it's mud, sand, or gravel or dirt, it will leave a different imprint. You know, have I ever, you know, gotten a picture of one? Well, that's a terrible look. That's a terrible picture. You can't see it much on that screen. But here's a tree. And the reason why I had to superimpose it to make it where you could see it is because they're always in the dark parts. They're not in the light. You think you're ever going to be in a spot where you're going to catch one like out in the open? It ain't going to happen. All you're going to catch maybe is just a peeking around a tree with a face. And what you see here is the brow ridge, the bridge of the nose, the deep set eyes. There's the mouth and the beard. There's the top of its head. Here's the shoulder. It's not a really good picture. I'm sorry, it's not justice on the TV screen, on the projector screen. Plus the light kind of makes it tough too. Sometimes when you stop a piece of footage, you know, and you stop framing, you find something that doesn't fit. And again, in a video footage, we find where it stopped, and then for a second it looked at the camera, and we caught the brow ridge, the deep set eyes, the nose, and the mouth, and the top of the head. Now my greatest achievement, I guess, is I don't know if you're going to be able to see this one. This is one that I recently got, and this is my favorite. I call this Partners in Crime in the Barn. And the significance to this picture was in Rabbit Town. There's a family, and they were having issues with. That light is out.
We flip them out back there a minute.
Just for a second. Let me see that better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Problem was that this family had something that was coming into the barn. They raised quail and they raised rabbits to eat and sell. And something was coming into the barn and taking these two sticks and turning them straight up and down and lifting the door up and getting the quail out of the pen. So I put a plot watcher and enough ambient light inside the barn to take photos every 5 seconds. So for the first 3 days, I put it watching the front door of the barn. Didn't catch anything. Next 2 days, I put it watching the side door of the barn. Didn't catch anything. Well, the last day, I put it up about 9 o'clock that night or 10. And I didn't realize that the thumb drive on the plot watcher only had 30 photos left. That's one every 5 seconds. So from the time I turned it off and turned it on and ducked underneath and went out the front door, it took 30 pictures. So this was going on while I was in the barn. When I got the pictures back, I really couldn't tell much about the picture because on the original, let's see if I got it. On the original, this is all kind of dark. You can't really see that much detail. So I had a friend of mine that's a photographer. I told him, I said, do me a favor. See if you can enhance this photograph and tell me what you see. So he enhanced it. He calls me up and he says, now that's a Dixie cup. You know, one in red cups. That's what that is. He says, man, you got something there. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, there's something standing in the doorway. And as you see, this right here is the actual doorway of the barn. And these two dots, well, when he zoomed in and pulled them up and enhanced them, those are eyes. And it's actually standing in the doorway. And you can see on this photograph, you can actually see I don't know if I can zoom in. Let me see if I can zoom in. You can actually see, once you zoom in, you can actually see the orbit of the eye. Which I thought that was pretty cool. I thought, man, check that out. You see the orbit of the eye. He said, oh, that ain't it, Paul. There's more of that picture. I said, really? He said, yeah, go about 2 or 3 feet down below those 2 eyes. Tell me what you see. So, I looked, and guess what? Right here. Remember those pictures I showed earlier? Remember the deep, the raised eye, the brow ridge, the deep set eyes, the nose, and there's the mouth, and there's the chin with the beard. Of course, on this screen here, it doesn't do it justice compared to when you look at it on this computer. You ought to see it on a 50-inch flat screen high-def TV. Then you really see something. And the reason why his eyes look like they do right there is because he blinked when the camera took the picture. So, you know, all I can do is show what I have been able to find. The evidence in the footprints, audio, pictures, video footage. What I'm most noted for is the video footage that Finding Bigfoot used. And the video footage that they used is here's the original on that. Well, that's one of the originals on the Dye photo. Clay Dye was the guy's name where this happened. There's a footprint cast that came from their yard, their garden, which you see right there. There's the unedited version of the photo. Can you see how dark it was inside the barn? He's right there. Partners in crime. They were both in there trying to steal quail, and I happened to bust them, I guess. Is why they didn't succeed. But what I'm mostly noted for is this footage right here. I pan across the green field, past the tent. There's the guys getting their flashlights, and then all of a sudden I realize there's somebody standing there in the woods. I'm looking at my monitor going, well, who is that? That's the heat signature. I said, where's everybody at? And they go, we're over here. There you see him. And I go back because I'm realizing. But then all of a sudden, no heat signature. He's moved. And what he did was he squatted down. He's still behind there, but he squatted down. And now he's going to start moving his way down along the ridge. And as he gets down here, you'll see a little bit of white pop up again. And that's him as he's, trying to avoid, because he realized I seen him. I've had him sit in the back of my truck. I got the FLIR on. I'm eating parts of peanuts. And all of a sudden, you'll notice right here, all of a sudden you'll see something pop up out of nowhere. And I do that a lot of times. I turn the camera on, and then I just sit there in the dark with no lights, and maybe eat peanuts, and maybe, sing a song or make a noise, do something just to kind of take away the boredom. And you're going to see it pop up here in just a second. There he is. Remember what I said about peeking around the tree? There's the tree. And just peeking around the tree, there's another tree right here. And this is all foliage. Here's the bottom of the grass, all the way up to here. This was 4 foot off the ground. Now if that would have been a deer, he would have done the next thing would have been to come out over here where he could get a better look at me. But what he does is that he's watching me, and then all of a sudden you'll see him, he'll kind of go out of view. Well, he's over here. He's trying to get a better look at me, but he doesn't want to come out past these honeysuckles, because if he does, then see, he keeps moving. He's trying to take a look at me. He knows I'm there. He can see me, but he can't quite get in a good spot. You don't want to give away his position or anything else. So he sits there for a little while and tries to get a better look at me. And after a short while, he finally gets tired of trying, and then moves off. And it happens so quickly that you don't even see it. The only thing you see is him moving through the woods. All right, well, I'll wrap it up with, this was my close encounter in Mississippi, and that's an artist's rendition of what I saw. Same artist that did this picture.
Now tell us just briefly about that one. Is that the one 20 foot away?
That's one 20 foot away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do they smell? That's what I've read.
Yes, they smell. Tell them, Paul.
Do they smell?
Imagine going into the nastiest men's bathroom you've ever been in, and then mix in armpit sweat, gym socks that have been in an old, musty, dirty box for about a month. And that's what they smell.
What kind of smell when we walked in here this afternoon?
Yeah, that's...
Brought what I had.
I'm not there with